So for the first move, called upward rotation, what I really want you to be able to visualize is how this shoulder blade is moving up and around. We've got the arm bone attached to it, but it's not just that the shoulder goes straight up. If you can tell, if I can draw on this sucker, if you can tell, this little section down here moves kind of out and up, while this section moves kind of up and around, like so. Now let's see if that will play for me so you can see how that moves. It's not just up, it's kind of this rotational movement where the shoulder blade kind of moves up, but the bottom part of it down here, this part with the circle, kind of tucks out and around to the side, like kind of around your rib cage, almost forwards and out, while the top part of it moves up and around towards the back of your head. So you want to really think about that rotational movement in that first section of the movement where you're, see if you can see me like that. So where you're really trying to get your arms up here and then you shrug that up and around, and then as you finish your arms around, you're thinking about that rotational movement where this bottom section of your shoulder blade is actually kind of moving out to the side while the top part moves up and around. So that's the visual that you want to keep in mind for upward rotation portion of that movement. So once you've completed the upward rotation section, where we get up here and then really rotate that shoulder up and around as we reach for the ceiling, the next section where we pull our arms down and in is not just the arm coming down and in. What we're really trying to focus on again is what's happening with this shoulder blade. Are we going from all the way up here to tucking that and rotating it down and in? So it's the opposite movement of upward rotation, as you may have gathered, because it's called downward rotation. And this is sort of what that movement looks like. Get rid of this guy. Where you can see that it's the opposite of the upward rotation. We've got, if I draw on this for you, we've got this, what's called the inferior angle, kind of moving down and in, but primarily in, while this section out here is also moving kind of down and around. And this section actually goes up just a teeny bit. And let's see how that looks now when we get that to play. No, not you. You can see this inferior angle is what it's called up here. Actually moves up a teeny bit, while this outside portion comes down and in, and this bottom portion comes down and in as well. So as you're tucking down like this, you're not just thinking, I'm bringing my elbow down. You're really trying to live on that shoulder blade on your back and thinking, am I really trying to slide that down and in into downward rotation, as opposed to just down or just in, trying to get that to move down and in like so. Now, the third movement in the sequence is called protraction. They have it labeled as scapula abduction, but we're going to call it protraction. My cursor will show up. So as we let this play, what you'll notice is this shoulder blade is sliding forwards and around the rib cage, away from the spine, as this arm travels forwards as well. And you see these big finger-like muscles here that are attaching to the rib cage, pulling that forward. So you're trying to create as much space between your, as we draw, you're trying to create as much space between your spine and this section of your scapula as you can. It's trying to send this forward and around your rib cage using those muscles that it indicated right here on the front side. These little finger-like guys here, in order to slide this scapula forwards and around and away from your spine. So just reaching your arm is not enough. If you can see I can just reach my arm a little bit, but then I can go and really get that shoulder blade forward. And you may notice it's easier to get that shoulder blade forward if you round your spine a little bit and slouch as you do it, and kind of reach that further here, versus if I'm up tall, I don't get quite as much of it. So kind of a little slouch as you reach that and try to separate. You can see the medial border of my scapula here, maybe. Right there. You're trying to shove that forward and away from your spine in the motion of protraction. So it's not just, it's a little slouch and then reach it as far as you can with both of them at the same time. You should feel a little stretch between your shoulder blade and your spine. Trying to get that shoulder blade as far forward as you can for that third motion of protraction. And then in the last movement in this sequence, we have what is called retraction. They call it scapula adduction, potato, potato, tomato, potato, whatever. I'm going to hide this guy so you can see, even though that muscle does participate in this, and you may feel some contraction in that, I'm going to get rid of it so we can fully see the shoulder blade. And this is the portion where we've just gone forward and now we're trying to bring it back with our arms out wide. So in this example, they show the arm remaining straight forward, but you're going to be able to get more of this motion if you bring your arm out to the side as you bring your shoulder blades back versus if you keep your arm forward and try to bring it back. And on this one, converse to protraction, we wanted to slouch a little bit to get all of it. You want to get that chest up as high as you can to then really slide those shoulder blades back and pinch them together as though you have a pencil between your shoulder blades and you're trying to pinch that together. So what you'll notice here is that this little blue sucker, as we draw on this, it follows the direction of these muscles here where it's back and a little bit, oops, let's undo that one, that was bad. It's back and a little bit up. Not necessarily up, but it's not just down and back, it's actually up and back a little bit. So we're trying to pull that shoulder blade back, and then we would have the arm bone out like this with the elbow and the whatever going on there. Trying to pull that back as far as you can. So as we let that play again, you'll see how this moves back and up slightly. And again, having the arms out to the side will give you more available motion there and getting as much thoracic extension as you can, popping that chest up high to really pull those back. You can see here probably that when I'm slouched, I can't move my shoulder blades back as far as if I arch up, I can get a little bit more out of those. So you want to make sure that you're arched up nice and tall on the retraction section as the fourth movement in this scapular series. So just to recap and put that all together, I'll show you one more time how it's going to look from behind. Hopefully you can hear me okay. We're going to come up to about here, bringing those shoulder blades up and around, keeping them up and around while we reach for the ceiling, then pull them back, elbows bend, and now we're tucking them down and in. And then as we get all the way down and in, we then bring our arms out, not all the way in like this, but not all the way out, somewhere in between as we round our spine a little bit and reach those shoulder blades forward as much as we can, and then we get up tall, and then we pull our shoulder blades back all the way. So, to draw on this so that you get an idea of what those movements are, first, we have bringing this whole thing up and around, like so. Then, after we get done with that, in a different color, we then bring it down and in like this. And then, as we use a different color for the third movement, our protraction is trying to reach this shoulder blade around the front of your rib cage, trying to create space between here and here. And then for our fourth trick, we're doing the opposite of that. We're actually trying to bring this back and a teeny bit up to try and close this space between here and here. Holding it for a second or two at each of the extremes, all the way up here, squeezing that, really feeling yourself fight to keep those up and around. Then you travel down and really pinch them down and in, feeling yourself keep those shoulder blades tucked down and in, reaching it all the way forward with a rounded spine, trying to make sure you feel that pushing those shoulder blades forward, a little stretch between the shoulder blades and the spine, and then finishing off with the opposite where we're pulling it back, getting up nice and tall, and really squeezing back to close that space off, and then rinsing and repeating that a few times through.